This incident involved a 61-year-old male patient found unresponsive in his bathroom. Upon our arrival, the patient was still in the bathroom. At that point, it had been upgraded to an echo level call. Our responders confirmed that it was a cardiac arrest, relocated the patient into an area that was larger and was going to work better for high-performance CPR. So nice job to the team for doing that. Go to the first part here. Again, we can tell that compressions were being done during the application of the AED pad, so nice job there. And it took about 2 seconds from the point that the AED says no shock advised to the team getting back on the chest. And nice work on that. Remember that the best way to keep those numbers low is by hovering on the chest, and that way you're ready to do compressions as soon as it says no shock advised or as soon as the AED starts charging. This is going to be the second analyzed rhythm. Again, it took us about 2 seconds to get back on the chest after it said no shock advised. And again, they must have been hovering over the chest. So nice work on the team for keeping those numbers low. Something I do want to note, though, is that when we're doing 32 compressions, remember that the 2 ventilations should take around 3 seconds. That's how long the ACCD gives us. And that's how long we should be giving the compressor or the airway person, is about 3 seconds to get those 2 ventilations in. And the person who's in charge of those 3 seconds is the person doing compressions. So after they get to the 30, they're counting either in their head or out loud, preferably if they can, up to 3 seconds, and then they get back on the chest. Eventually, the person doing ventilations will be able to catch up, and they'll be able to get those 2 ventilations in during those 3 seconds. This is going to be the third analyzed rhythm. It took 3 seconds from the point that it says no shock advised to getting back on the chest. So a little bit longer, but still quite low. Nice job to the team for keeping those numbers low. Something I also want to note too, and I didn't get a picture of the rhythm, but the team was actually doing continuous compressions when the AED was giving the around 20-second mark until the next analyze. So nice job to the team for doing that. That's exactly what we're supposed to be doing. So really good job on that. This section looks very non-significant, but the reason I have it on here is because this is the point that the back plate on the ACCD was placed. It took the team literally 2 seconds to put the back plate and get back on the chest, and that's why we have no real compressions right there. It looks like they did it during the 2 ventilation stage. Instead of doing the 2 ventilations, they went ahead and did the back plate. Excellent job on keeping that really, really low. Just great work from the team and the team leader here. Okay, this is going to be the fourth analyzed rhythm. The rhythm really hasn't changed too much. We still have a PEA. It took 12 seconds to get back on the chest and actually to get the top piece back on. So the team decided to put the top piece on at the end of the analyzing phase. The best place to do that is during the 2 ventilations while you're doing 32. And if you're no longer doing 32 because you have an advanced airway, that's okay, but give a 30 count for compressions, and at the end of the 30 count, you would go ahead and put the top piece. The reason you want to do that is for a couple things. One, we're going to eat up one of those natural pauses. You have a 3-second natural pause for us to put that top piece on. And if for any reason you go beyond that, well, it's not going to be a huge deal. Unfortunately here, if you go beyond the analyzing phase and it wants to go ahead and wants you to start doing compressions again, unfortunately, we're not getting on the chest in a quick time. So this 12 seconds of no forward motion was a lot longer because we had to do the analyzing phase of the AED. So just keep that in mind next time. Let it analyze, get back on the chest as quickly as possible, and at the end of the 30 compressions, the next 30 compressions, go ahead and swing that top piece over. And again, if at any point you're putting that top piece on and just something doesn't seem right, it doesn't seem to be in the right spot, or it's moved, or it's just not working appropriately, be quick to get it off and get back on the chest to do manual compressions. So again, it took about 12 seconds to put the top piece on and get back on the chest. Okay, so this is going to be the fifth analyzed rhythm. It took the team a little bit longer to get back on the chest or to push the button. It took about 3.5 seconds from the point that it said no shock advised to the first compression. The best way to minimize this is to make sure that the ACCD person has their finger on the play button, either the 32 or the continuous, either one, has their finger on that button. So that way, as soon as it says no shock advised, or as soon as it starts charging, they quickly push that button. And that's going to be the best way to minimize that. Okay, and this is going to be pretty much the rest of the ACCD data. There was a delayed in ALS response, and it was turned over to another agency who wasn't in the area. So the cool thing about that is that we got a lot of data from our AED and the ACCD together, which was really nice. But unfortunately, it took a little while for the ALS crew to get on scene. At this point, the ALS crew was on scene. They had taken the patient off of our AED, and they put their ALS monitor on. Not a big deal. I want to do a shout out to the team leader here and the whole team. Here, all rounds of compressions were around 2 minutes. There were only a couple pauses that were longer than 10 seconds. There was one near the end of the cardiac arrest. It was around 14 seconds. Usually the most common reason for that is because they're getting ready to call Medcom, and so they want a good look at that rhythm, so that way when they call a doctor, they can tell them what exactly it is. So that's usually the biggest reason why there's a long pause. It still should be 10 seconds or less, but that's typically what I find when we have a long pause at the end of the cardiac arrest. And then the other pause was that 12 seconds when we put that top piece on of the ACCD. But in all, this was a very well-ran cardiac arrest. Pauses, post-shock or post-analyzing pauses were at a minimum. Nice work on that. It only took 2 seconds to put the back plate on for the ACCD, and all rounds of compressions were around 2 minutes. Really, really, really nice job on this. Keep up the good work, guys. Keep practicing. I want you guys to practice, putting that top piece on at different stages of the cardiac arrest. Again, we want to use the 2 ventilations for that placement, but in all, this is a well-ran cardiac arrest. Nice job to the entire team.